ترشيحي لرئاسة المجلس البلدي لمدينة بيروت.
Good afternoon, you're watching the English newscast on Future Television. I'm Linda Tamim and these are today's top stories. Public school teachers and the Union Coordination Committee hold separate protests outside the Education Ministry, demanding that the state meet their demands. Thousands of protesters rally in Baghdad to demand a parliamentary vote on a cabinet reshuffle aimed at fighting corruption in Iraq. And U.S. President Barack Obama says he plans to send 250 more troops to Syria to fight the Islamic State. Teachers have held protests outside the Education Ministry demanding that the state meet their demands, which have not been fulfilled due to a lack of legislation. Public school contract teachers staged a symbolic rally outside the ministry, followed by protests from the Union Coordination Committee. Head of the High School Contract Teacher Committee, Hamza Mansour, called on Education Minister Ilyas Boussab to press the Parliament to pass a balanced draft law that grants all teachers what he called their wasted rights, including the permanent employment of contract teachers. Boussab later joined the protest and reaffirmed the contract teachers' rights, adding that several demands were achieved. He also reiterated that he was seeking to permanently employ as many teachers as needed by the state from the current contract workers. Overnight Patriarch Shadadai says he hopes the municipal polls, which are set for next month, will pave the way for the election of a new president. Speaking at Beirut's International Airport before traveling to Brussels on a 3-day visit, Rai said the solution to all issues is the presidency. Both elections should be held because Lebanon's values lie in the transition of power and the democratic system. The Patriarch also denied that he had proposed the election of Change and Reform bloc leader MP Michel Aoun as president for 2 years to end the presidential impasse. MP Ibrahim Kanaan says the Lebanese Parliament's Finance and Budget Committee will demand a General Assembly to probe the cabinet's negligence on the country's trash crisis. Kanaan, who heads the committee, revealed that lawmakers have already completed hearings of officials linked to the trash crisis, but the work will not be complete without questioning the cabinet's role. He said the committee has reached important resolutions, rejecting the government's decision to reassign the Greater Beirut waste contractors to clean, while its role in the crisis is being questioned. Kanaan has accused Suclean and its sister company Sukomi of squandering public funds over the past 2 decades. He stressed that the committee doesn't trust the cabinet and vowed to pursue the matter until the end. UN representatives in Lebanon have held a press encounter with members of the media entitled UN in Lebanon Year in Review 2015. The event included an open discussion with UN Special Coordinator for Lebanon, Ms. Sigrid Kaag, UN Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator, Mr. Philippe Lazzarini, and representatives of UN agencies, funds, and programs. The Year in Review 2015 highlights the UN's long-standing commitment to the service of Lebanon and its people, as well as its engagement and partnership with the country. I'd like to know, what is the biggest challenge that the UN faced in its work in Lebanon this past year?
I would say 2. The most acute challenge is probably on the field of peace and security last year, January, when we were concerned about serious the repercussions of the tensions and the incidents that occurred across the blue line. The risk of miscalculation is always there, and the consequences for Lebanon and as well as the citizens of Israel would have been potentially devastating. That's one. That is an undercurrent risk that is always there, and we always highlight that. The more structural other challenge, and I think that's not just one, is of course dealing with the impact of the Syria crisis on Lebanon. There's continued frailty, and the erosion of the institutions of state are certainly not helping. So this is a chronic undercurrent challenge. So all of us, of course, continue to hope and try to assist in whatever way we can that a solution will be found to the issue of the presidency, and the institutions of state will be redynamized.
When the UN Secretary General was here, I asked him a question specifically about Daesh and how to actually prevent Daesh from, impacting Lebanon and its security. So what is the UN doing about this?
Well, I think I just mentioned the launch of the Prevention of Violent Extremism strategy we have that has different pillars. Poverty is one of them, or the fight against poverty, education, health, but also assistance to the Lebanese armed forces through the international community, training, capacity building. It's a fairly holistic approach. But of course, I think I can only commend the Lebanese armed forces, the entire security apparatus of the country in their ability and their courage and determination to keep the country safe and secure and to shield and protect its territorial integrity.
So I'd like to know what your plans for long-term development are and what have been your achievements for the past year.
We as a UN are developing our cooperation framework with the government for the next coming 4 years, which is the Whole Lebanon approach that Ms. Kaga has highlighted before, with an emphasis on peace and security, an emphasis on governance and electoral law and support to peace of reform and legislation, and also support on the socio-economic, and that's on the socio-economic where we do try to do the difference between what has been scaled up because of the crisis, and I do believe that because of the crisis Lebanon has become a more vulnerable place, and this is the reason why we need to scale up our support at a time of a crisis. And there is also one area I haven't mentioned, but which is very important for all of us, is the environmental area.
Do you have any plans to help with the garbage situation here?
The UN, through its various specialized agencies, has provided, is providing, and will provide, technical expertise and advice on feasibility of, the upcoming plan. So yes, we are, through our technical expert, providing advice to the government.
U.S. President Barack Obama says he plans to send 250 more troops to Syria, a sharp increase in the number of Americans working with local Syrian forces. Obama announced the decision after a meeting in Hanover with German Chancellor Angela Merkel. The White House says the deployment aims to accelerate the process of driving back the Islamic State group. Syria's main opposition group had called on the U.S. and other countries to provide their fighters on the ground with weapons instead of troops. It pulled out of the peace talks in Geneva last week in protest against the escalating fighting and slow aid deliveries, leaving only a few representatives for informal technical sessions with Staffan de Misture's team. The UN envoy, however, said he planned to continue peace talks this week, probably until Wednesday, despite the worrisome trends on the ground.
Well, weapons is more important than troops there in Syria. Weapons, we have enough really people to fight terrorism there, but they don't have enough weapons to fight Daesh. Daesh in Syria is not more than 20,000, but we have more than 100,000 moderate fighters. They only need weapons to fight that, and they also need protection from the regime when they fight their war against Daesh, because the regime always target them. We need more support, we need more weapons to fight our war against terrorism in Syria. More than 2,000 violations of the regime since the truce took place, and nobody really stopped the regime from this, committing this violation. The other people they have the right to protect their people when they are attacked. Our moderate fighters there, our Syrian Free Army, they have the right, to reply to any attack there. But the thing is, they're the only side that really respected this truce. Since day one, regime is committing violations, but nobody even said no to this regime. Nobody even talked to the regime to stop these violations.
Coming up next, a massive blaze engulfs India's National Museum of Natural History in New Delhi. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thousands of supporters of powerful Shiite cleric Muqtada Sadr have answered his call to demonstrate in Baghdad to pressure the Iraqi government to move forward with stalled reforms. Iraq has been hit by weeks of political turmoil surrounding Prime Minister Haidar al-Abadi's efforts to replace the cabinet of party-affiliated ministers with a government of technocrats. The proposed changes have been opposed by powerful political parties that rely on control of ministries for patronage and funds, and Parliament has repeatedly failed to vote on a new cabinet list. The protest came on the same day that Parliament Speaker Salim al-Jubouri was seeking to hold a session to vote on a new cabinet. Saudi Arabia's cabinet has agreed on a broad-based economic reform plan known as Vision 2030, revealing how the oil-reliant state plans to diversify its economy over the next 14 years. Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the deputy crown prince, said the country was building up its public investment fund to become a major player in global markets. He said Saudi Arabia was restructuring its housing ministry to increase the supply of affordable housing and creating a green card system within 5 years to give expatriates long-term residence. Salman al-Ansari, founder and president of the Saudi American Public Relations Affairs Committee, says the green card system also gives more rights to expatriates to invest in the country. Moving on to India, a massive blaze engulfed the country's National Museum of Natural History in New Delhi. The fire broke out in the early hours of this morning, starting from top floor and spreading to other parts of the building. At least 35 firefighters were deployed. 6 of them were seriously injured and rushed to hospital. The museum opened in 1978, and officials say fire safety mechanisms in the building were not functioning. The investigation into the cause of the fire is ongoing. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau condemned the execution of a Canadian hostage by Abu Sayyaf militants in the Philippines, calling it an act of cold-blooded murder. John Ridsdale, 68, a former mining executive, was captured by Islamist militants along with 3 other people in September of 2015 while on vacation on a Philippine island. The Philippine Army said a severed head was found on a remote island on Monday, 5 hours after the expiry of a ransom deadline set by militants who had threatened to execute 1 of 4 captives.
I am outraged by the news that a Canadian citizen, John Ridsdale, held hostage in the Philippines since September 21st, 2015, has been killed at the hands of his captors. Canada condemns without reservation the brutality of the hostage takers and this unnecessary death. This was an act of cold-blooded murder, and responsibility rests squarely with the terrorist group who took him hostage. The Government of Canada is committed to working with the Government of Philippines and international partners to pursue those responsible for this heinous act and bring them to justice. On behalf of the Government of Canada and all Canadians, I would like to express my deepest condolences to the family and friends of Mr. Ridsdale. They have endured a terrible ordeal, and this is a devastating moment for all of them. Our thoughts are with them as they come to terms with their loss, and I would ask the media respect their privacy at this difficult time. The Government of Canada's first priority is the safety and security of its citizens. The Government of Canada will not comment or release any information which may compromise ongoing efforts or endanger the safety of the remaining hostages.
This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our top stories. Public school teachers and the Union Coordination Committee hold separate protests outside the Education Ministry, demanding that the state meet their demands. Thousands of protesters rally in Baghdad to demand a parliamentary vote on a cabinet reshuffle aimed at fighting corruption in Iraq. And U.S. President Barack Obama says he plans to send 250 more troops to Syria to fight the Islamic State group. Those are your headlines for today. I'm Linda Tamimna. Thank you all for tuning in this afternoon.
بترشيحي لرئاسة المجلس البلدي